So this week, Deer and Wildlife Stories travels to Kentucky. We're going to be at Woodard Whitetails of Kentucky. And on today's program, we're going to show you what I think may be the biggest 2-year-old buck we've ever filmed. The white-tailed deer is America's favorite big game animal, and white-tailed deer farming is the fastest growing segment in the agriculture industry. Our program's mission is to dive into the world of deer farming and inform you of how deer farmers all over the country are now using rapidly developing science-based research on their captive deer herds to solve the chronic wasting disease issue through selective breeding. Not only is this new science working, but it's obvious that captive deer breeding is the only way to help save America's deer herds from CWD, which will help improve overall herd health and at the same time can produce more quality trophy-sized animals for the general public. Join me as we discover how whitetail genetics, deer auctions, animal husbandry, and so much more drive the modern-day deer farming industry. My name is Keith Warren, and this is Deer and Wildlife Stories. So we're just outside of Glasgow, Kentucky, which is right down the road from Bowling Green, Kentucky at Woodard Whitetails. And Woodard Whitetails is owned by Henry Woodard. Henry's been a friend of mine for, 20 plus years. And Henry is known throughout the deer breeding industry as one of the most successful breeders there is. On today's program, we'll be heading along with Dustin Blosser. Dustin has been here for several years now, and he's learned firsthand how to raise some of the biggest deer you've ever seen.
I'm Dustin Blosser, the ranch manager here at Woodard Whitetails of Kentucky. I've been here the last 3 years. We have over 300 head of whitetail, and we're just starting into the elk. So Kentucky's a pretty good state for deer farming. The regulations are real nice, great market. We have a lot of markers and CWD scores that are pretty good for us, and we're trying to expand upon that and introduce that to farmers here in the state.
All right, so this is a part of the farm I've never been on before, and on the way to take a look at some bucks, we run into some elk. What is the story on these guys?
So Henry's been wanting to get some elk for the last, I don't know how many years, and we finally ran across an opportunity and we pulled the trigger on it, and now we got 30 head of elk.
I mean, look how gentle they are. I mean, the elk are so much easier to raise than white-tailed deer. Isn't that what you found?
Yeah, I have. I mean, it's so hands-off. None of them were bottle fed that you can get within 10 feet of all of them.
Well, historically, I mean, you go back, you raised elk well before you got in the deer farming business as a profession, right?
My dad up in West Virginia had some elk at our family farm. Nowhere near as many as this, but I've had a little bit of experience with them, but this is the most I've messed with them.
And see, as far as the genetics go, genetics are just as important to elk as they are to white-tailed deer, right?
Yep.
And so as they're looking at these elk in the pens, they're already studying all these pedigrees out there to make sure they're going to be breeding them right. So they've got some bulls. So as you're looking at the breeding on these elk, I mean, do you consider the new CWD evaluation that the North American Deer Registry has?
Yes, so we have to send all that off. We've looked back on our pedigrees and some tests that have already been done on those animals. We have a good chance of having some markers. They're L's in the elk, not S's. Mm-hmm. So we have a good chance of having those in our breeder bulls, and we're going to send off for the GEBV with the North American Deer Registry.
All right, so we're going to start out by showing you a bunch of yearling bucks. Now, I will tell you this, your yearlings, the first thing I'm going to take away is that they are more typical, okay, than they've ever been before. More and more people are asking for big, typical frame deer with a few extras, and clearly y'all are moving in that direction. That's just my initial take on it. Now, I like that yearling right there. Who is that?
So that's a brain freeze yearling. We got several out of him that look good. We have some rowdy yearlings and some no limit yearlings over here, but that guy there, we might end up covering with him. We're waiting on GEBV and CWD scores to see what he comes back as, but he might cover some does for us.
I mean, you've got some other really outstanding yearlings, like this guy right here. Who is that?
So that's another brain freeze yearling we have. It's actually the twin brother to the one we were looking at earlier.
Okay.
It goes back to some Bonnie stuff that we have. Waiting on scores on him again.
Okay, we talk about
CWD and GEBV and all that. For those of you that are new to the show and you don't track on that, it's really a two-tier system. We want to breed with the right genetics as far as the GEBV goes, but we also want an SS marker.
Yes.
And to get an SS marker is valuable. And so y'all are really working that way, aren't you?
Yeah, right now about 60% of our does have at least one marker, and we've got some good GEBV scores, but it's a multi-year process to get them to where we want to be, and we just got to work at it.
To breed CWD out of the herd is extremely important, and that's what's being done not just here, but other places as well. But right now, we're going to show you some 2-year-olds. So these are all 2-year-olds?
Yes, these are all 2-year-olds.
How many you got in here? A bunch of them.
I mean, we got several pens. There's 15 in this pen here, but we've divided them up just to have fewer deer per pen. That's worked better for us. We have less antler damage. They're calmer. A lot easier to get in and work with them with less deer in the pen.
Okay, but what would you say the average score of these guys is? I mean, this is amazing as 2-year-olds. Look at them.
I mean, we very rarely have something under 200 inches at 2 years old.
Yeah.
We'll have a few that jump up over 400, not too many, but we're aiming for that 180 to 240. If we can hit in there, we'll be happy.
Well, consistently you're doing it. I mean, these guys, I don't care if you like big frame typicals with some extras, or guys with drops, or guys that are real non-typical. You got a little bit of everything.
Yeah, the people that buy our stalker bucks and our does, some people want typicals, some people want big gnarly, some people need something that they're trying to introduce to their herd. So we have a wide range.
But you also help people start up preserves, right?
Yeah, we start preserves, we start farms, anything somebody needs. A lot of people are getting into fencing in a few hundred acres, putting some deer out there, just maybe not even to sell as a hunt, but to hunt as themselves and to have their family come out.
And they want good genetics.
Yeah, if you start with these deer, you're gonna have good genetics.
Oh yeah. But if somebody's wanting to come out here for a farm tour, when would be the best time for them to contact you to try to schedule?
Pretty much anytime. I do farm tours year round. I mean, if somebody calls in the middle of January, they wanna come look at the deer, I have them come out. If you're wanting to see antlers and potential of bucks, anytime in August is good for us. If you give me a call at 304-698-5798, I'm here all the time. We can schedule a tour.
All right, so you look at these guys and think, how many of them are breeders? The answer is, well, there's none of them. But we're fixing to show you some 2-year-olds that are.
Deer and Wildlife Stories is brought to you by MVP Whitetails, Dr. Ray Favero's Whitetail Genetics, Rut Manufacturing, and Rafter P Construction. For more videos on deer farming, check out the Deer Farming channel on YouTube and make sure and follow us on Facebook.
So who are these guys?
These are some more 2-year-olds. We'll be breeding with a few of these guys in here this year.
Yeah, I mean, these deer, what you're looking at here, 2-year-olds, there's some really good 2-year-olds in here. So when you're looking at these bucks, what criteria do you use to be able to determine whether you're going to use them for a breed or not?
So usually we'll look out in the pen, they got to have the look. Anybody that we're breeding with, they have to have the look first.
Mm-hmm.
Second, they got to have a pedigree that works with our does. Mm-hmm. If it's going to be too tight, we just can't breed with them. You'll be inbreeding. And then we look to see if they have markers or what their GEBV score is. And
they have to check all the boxes.
There's a lot of boxes to check.
Yeah. So is there anybody special you want to point out?
So that there is a blackjack 2-year-old. He's a GS. We'll be covering with him this year. I mean, he's got a real good look to him.
Yep.
Good score and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a few other ones. That one there is an illusion 2-year-old. We don't have a name for him just yet, but we're definitely gonna put him on some does. I love the frame and just rows of tines. So there's a buck there we bred with last year. We're probably gonna cover again with him this year, is a Deep Woods. He's a GS.
Which one is he?
He's that really tall one.
I got him. Oh yeah. He's a GS?
Yep.
Okay. You hear us talking about GS, SS, GG, I mean all this kind of stuff. You're trying to go the GS and then SS. That's what you're trying to do when you're breeding for deer. And that's exactly what's going on deer farms all over the country, but especially right here in Kentucky at Woodard Whitetails. I mean, They're lining everything up like you just talked about. They got to hit all the boxes. Got to check off all the boxes before they're a breeder here. What about that big white one right there? You got to be breeding with him.
We're not breeding with him. Somebody else will be breeding with him this year.
Really? Why aren't you breeding with him? He's huge. Look how wide he is.
He's a stud, but he just doesn't work with our does. He's pretty tight with our line here.
Okay. Wow. That makes sense. So for people to think that deer breeders are breeding wrong and they're inbreeding and all that kind of stuff, that's what he's talking about. They're not doing that. Okay, so that buck right there on another farm, he may work with the breeding program perfectly, but here he doesn't. But he's a heck of a deer. And he was born here?
Yep.
Whoa, how wide do you think he is?
He's got to be close 27, 28.
And how old?
He's a 2-year-old.
Goodness, what a deer. One thing that amazes me about the deer is how gentle they are. And that tells me immediately that you spend a lot of time in the pens. Okay?
Yeah, 2 or 3 times a day.
Okay, but they got to be bottle fed, right?
The bucks aren't. Most
Really?
of our does are bottle fed, and I mean, you see how tame they are. We didn't bottle feed our does this year just because they're tame out in the pens naturally. We check them 2 or 3 times a day.
So these bucks we're looking at, they weren't bottle fed. It's just because you spend a lot of time with them.
Yeah.
Would you tell everybody why that's important to spend a lot of time with your deer? What are you doing when you're in here spending time with them?
So we're checking health, we're checking antlers, how they're acting, how they're feeling, and just enjoying them. And it's nice to come out and look at them every day.
And as a deer breeder, you want to see calm deer, okay? And calm deer make calm deer. And that's one of the things when they're bottle feeding the does, they make doe fawns that are gentle, and just the whole atmosphere on the farm is more mellow and laid back. And as you can see, these bucks, they're pretty mellow and laid back. So one of the bucks out here appears to have EHD, and if not taken care of, that buck is probably going to die. So what we're going to do right now is take the dart gun, go in there and treat him.
I believe that's him directly in front of us.
Deer herd animals, and even in pens like this, they tend to be together. If you go in there and you see all the deer together except for one is laying off to the side, that's a big sign that there's something wrong with him.
Really want his side to be a little more comfortable and everything.
Yep. What I'm gonna do is come here and give him these fluids up right underneath the skin right here.
Just help him cool him down and keep him hydrated. And we knew he had EHD because he lost a decent amount of weight and he's by himself. And his eyes are a little swollen around his face and he just, in general, just not acting the best. All right, this is just B12. It helps boost their immune system and helps them feel a little bit better from getting darted down. And this here is Nufor, which is just a longer lasting overall general antibiotic. This here is Draxin, respiratory antibiotic.
The deer has now had all the treatment we can do to it and the best chance of survival as possible. So we're gonna go ahead and remove the line right here where the fluids went in. Giving it the antidote right now. That ought to do it. We're gonna pick up everything, get out of here. He ought to be on his feet in about 10 minutes and we'll observe him from up on top of the hill. When we get back from the break, we're gonna show you what I think is the biggest 2-year-old I've ever laid my eyes on.
Deer and Wildlife Stories is brought to you by the Animal Kingdom Auction Barn and 5K Ranch, LE Fence Company, the Texas Deer Association, Rutt Manufacturing, and New Dart. Deer and Wildlife Stories will be right back. Closed captioning is brought to you by Advanced Deer Genetics.
Who are these guys? These are like the Mac Daddies.
These are the top tier, what we're gonna be
These are your
for.
breeders.
These are the breeders.
Okay. I can't even begin to tell you how impressed I am with them all. But that one guy right there, that's got to be Louisville Slugger.
Yep, that's Slugger.
Oh my goodness gracious. I mean, words can't describe how much bigger he got. That is the look as a 2-year-old that everybody in the industry is hoping to grow a deer like that, especially at 2. They'd like to have one like that at 4, but he's at 2. So tell me about him.
That's probably the best deer we've raised. I mean, last year he was 230 inches at 1. If he didn't grow another inch after that, we'd be happy, but I'm expecting to be 330, if not more. 30 inches wide, great tine length.
Beams. I mean, he's got it all. I mean, the deer is a phenomenal animal. I mean, he has it all for a 2-year-old too.
Yep.
Okay, now, as far as he's a GS, correct?
Yes.
Okay, he's a GS. And did y'all breed with him last year?
Yeah, we AI'd with him, we covered with him, and we collected him. We're gonna be collecting him again this year.
So clearly y'all bred with him hard. You got fawns on the ground now out of that.
Yes.
Okay, well that means that they believe in their own deer, okay, big time. And he's putting his money on that guy right there, isn't he?
Yeah, we're going in hard on that one.
Oh yeah, I mean that deer right there is somebody that I promise you down the road, 2, 3, 4 years down the road, you're gonna see lots more of his offspring coming out, because look at him at 2, but okay, so you're gonna have semen for sale on him.
Yes.
Okay, give him a phone number.
It'll be 304-698-5798. Just give me a call.
Okay, so besides Slugger being in here, there's some other outstanding deer. I want you to tell me about who that guy is right there.
That's the Warden. We almost bred with him as a yearling, but we're definitely breeding with him this year. He's a GS James Bond son.
God, I'm laughing because it's like I can't believe my eyes. It's just crazy how big these deer are.
We got some special ones this year, I think.
I mean, you know, y'all have always had really good deer. Okay, but I mean, every time I come back here, I'm just like, I'm blown away. And I shouldn't be, truthfully, because I've known Henry for 20 years and I've known every time he gets better and better and better. But who's that guy right there?
That's Heat Shield. He's a 3-year-old this year. We bred with him last year. He's an SS.
Nice.
And
okay.
he's got a real good look to him. We're trying to clean up as well. And I mean, he meets the GEBV cutoff, the CWD scores, great pedigree and great look, so we'll be covering with him.
Okay, so if people are in Kentucky and they're current deer breeders and they want to purchase some semen, it's really easy to do, but if they want to purchase a buck, a breeder buck, y'all sell them, right?
Every year.
Okay, and as far as stalker does go, or does that are bred, could somebody come out here and take a look at a buck, go, you know, I'd like some does that are bred to that buck? Could they do that?
Yep.
So, I mean, any way you want to build your herd, if you're a beginner farmer or you're a farmer who's been doing it for a long time, you want to have the best of the best of the best genetics. I just like a Slugger, and I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. You need to call Dustin because that's nuts. Everybody in the country would like to have that deer.
I'm a little biased, but I think he's the best one in the country this year.
Literally, if there's a better 2-year-old anywhere in the United States than Slugger, I would like somebody to let me know, because, I mean, that deer right there has got it going on. And you know what? He's not that non-typical.
I think I counted, there's less than 10 or 15 kickers. He's got double row of tines.
Yeah.
But it's all up tines.
Yes, I mean, and he's pretty. You got to look at it, he's pretty. So when Deer and Wildlife Stories returns, we're heading down the road to Bowling Green, Kentucky to a deer breeder event.
Deer and Wildlife Stories is brought to you by Record Rack Deer and Elk Feeds, the North American Deer Registry, New Dart, Mossy Rock Ranch, and the North American Deer Farmers Association. Now it's time for the LE Fence Minute.
Hey guys, it's Ron with LE Fence. Today we're out here looking at something a little bit different. As you can see back here, I've got a corner topper over top of one of my H-brace corners. That's because if you get some crazy exotic animals like the sheep and goat species from Asia, they can climb and jump all your fence corners, and then you cannot keep them enclosed where you want to keep them. So what we did is we went ahead and we made a corner topper over top of the braces. That way, any of the sheep or goats that want to try and jump and climb off of the different fence corners, they can't get out of the fence anymore. So whether you're looking for fence clearing, new fence construction, land improvements, or even some crazy corner toppers or something to keep in your sheep and goats so they don't get out, we've got you covered here at LE Fence.
So now we're heading inside to the annual Kentucky Deer Farmers event. So the people that come to a deer farming event like this one here come from all different walks of life. Some people are not even deer farmers yet. Some people have been deer farmers for 30 or 40 years. So it's an opportunity to network with people that know more about deer farming than you do. And it's an opportunity for Henry to actually get to speak one-on-one with people and help them in deer farming as well.
We're promoting our industry within the state. We're probably going to have between 250, 300 people here today. We're having seminars to educate people about new technologies, things that's available to us as far as CWD resistance.
It's good to see everybody that you maybe haven't seen since last year, and we're trying to raise money to help farmers in the state. We're getting laws passed to make it more beneficial, easier for people to raise deer.
So we're looking to hopefully repeal some regulations that are a little more restrictive for us and encourage more people to join in on this industry, because it is very lucrative here in the state and we can't make enough bucks for the supply here.
It's really important to have a community like this. It's a good opportunity for all of us to meet new people and shake hands and introduce ourselves.
There's not a ton of farms here yet or a ton of preserves, so there's a lot of opportunity if you're wanting to get into deer farming to be able to come in and make a profit for your family, and it's an awesome industry to be in.
We're happy to see everybody here today, and we appreciate the support. It's greatly appreciated.
So if you want more information about attending next year's Kentucky Alternative Livestock Association meeting, the information on the screen right now, go ahead and call them. They'd love for you to attend. If you want to see more videos on deer farming, head over to YouTube and check out the Deer Farming channel. My name is Keith Warren. Thanks for watching.
For more videos on deer farming, check out the Deer Farming channel on YouTube and Facebook.